Hello, the topic of today's lesson is multiplication and division of fractions. But we've covered the operation of multiplication and division of fractions. Today we will look at word problems, many word problems, and of course we will use calculations as we go through them. So let's start with problem number 1. I am on page 58, right here. And it's problem number 1. So 2/3, let's read this carefully. 2/3 of the students in a class went to the museum. 1/2 of the remaining students went to the zoo. The rest of them remained at school. What fraction of the students remained at school? Let's first highlight the question, what fraction of the students remained at school? So that's what we need to find out. First, let's read the problem one more time. 2/3 of the students in a class went to a museum. So they were really kind to us to give us a bar model already. So 2/3, which means 1/3, went to the museum. 1/2 of the remaining students. I want you to note, not 1/2 of the whole class, 1/2 of the remaining students. So, well, if 2/3 went to the museum, we know that remaining students must be 1/3, right? That means remaining people who did not go to the museum are 1/3. What happened to those remaining students? Half of them went to the zoo. So they took half of 1/3. So this is 1/2 of 1/3. And of course, this is also the other 1/2 of 1/3, the remaining students. So let's put it into steps. Step 1. Well, if the whole class is 1/2 minus 2/3 who went to the museum, right? This is museum. The remaining students are, I'm going to use that purple color, 1/3. Step 2. How much is 1/2 of 1/3? How much is 1/2 of 1/3? We know it's 1 out of 6. Therefore, 1/6 of the whole class went to the zoo, while 1/6 of the whole class remained back at school. Very important, 1/2 of a third, 1/2 of the remainder, or what I call fraction of a fraction. Let's look at more examples. Amanda's house is 3 3/4 miles from school. She walked 1/3 of that distance. Find the distance she walked. So my friends, let me draw the starting bar model. Not the bar model they gave you that already has very busy. So Amanda's house is 3 3/4 miles from school, right? So this is maybe house and this is school. What happened? Amanda walked 1/3 of that distance. Find how far she walked. So all you need to find is this distance. Well, it's a fraction of the total distance, which happens to be a fraction. Again, it's a fraction of a fraction. So let me write it down. It's 1/3 of 3 3/4 of a mile. And how do we translate 1/3 of something in math? It is multiplication, right? We learned it in 5th grade. We learned a lot about it and used it in practice. My friends, there are 2 ways to solve this. Let's first do method 1, which is described, but I'm going to do my own handwriting. 1/3 of 3 3/4. Most of you most likely will convert the mixed number into an improper fraction, which is of course 15/4. And what is 1/3 of 15? 1/3 of 15 is 15/12. And 15/12 is the same as 1 and 3/12, which is the same as 1 1/4 of a mile, which is our answer. The distance that they asked us to find is 1.25 of a mile. Okay? Now, another way to solve this problem is to kind of divide 3 3/4 into two parts. Let me pick up another pencil. So let's call it in black, and let's call it method 2. Okay? I don't like how my screen. Let's just erase this. So let's call beautiful. Let's make this a very nice box. Okay, so another way to solve this would be to say 1/3 of 3 3/4. Let's first take 1/3. Maybe I'll do like that. Let's first take 1/3 of 3 and then 1/3 of 3/4. So we're kind of splitting this mixed number into two parts. What is 1/3 of 3? Well, that is just 3. Sorry, 1. That is just 1, pardon me. And what is 1/3 of 3/4? It is 1/4. It's only 1/4, right? Because here's your 3/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. And what is 1/3 of that? That's 1/3 of 3/4, which is just 1/4 of a mile. Okay, so together she walked 1 1/4 of a mile, which is exactly the same answer we've obtained in our previous calculation. We just kind of use step by step. We use the distributive property, my friends. It's the distributive property. Okay, next example. Problem number 2 on page 60. Jim's bag weighs 4 4/5 of a kilogram. Madison's bag weighs 1/4 that of Jim's. What is the weight of Madison's bag? Again, let's make a simple bar model. So Jim's bag, J is for Jim, all together, it weighs 4 4/5 of a kilo. Now, Madison's bag is only 1/4 of that, which means it's 4 times lighter, right? So half. So Madison's bag is just 1/4. Let's write it down. 1/4 of 4 4/5. How do we say 1/4 of 4 4/5? We translate it into multiplication, right? We translate it into multiplication. Now, again, let's try to use the distributive property for some quick mental math. What is 1/4 of 4? Well, we know 1/4 of 4 is just 4. And what is 1/4 of 4/5? Well, here is 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, which means we have 4 parts. And 1/4 of that is 1/4 of 4/5 is just 1/5, right? So it's 4 1/5. So sorry, not 4. Of course it's 1. 1/4 of 4 is 1. It's 1 1/5 of a kilogram. That's the weight of Madison's bag. Let's write it down. 1 1/5 of a kilogram. Next problem. There are 3.5 pies left over from a party. So 1, 2, 3.5. Again, we are dealing with a mixed number. Ali takes 3/4 of them home. How many pies did he take? So step 1, let's convert this improper fraction, this mixed number, into improper fraction. 3.5 is actually, why is this 7/8? 3.5 is first equal to 7/2. Let's do 7/2, right? So we have 7/2. So what is 3/4 of 7/2? 3/4 of 7/2 is 21/8. And 21/8 is 2 5. It's 2 and 5/8 of a kilogram. Okay, there we go. So it is 2 and 5/8. So it's, yes. My friends, next, we're not going to do all the methods. There's so many different ways. Emma bought 2¼ ounces of spices. Cody bought 1/2 of that amount, which means he bought 2 times less, right? Half. Then Emma's amount. How many ounces did Cody buy? Well, half of 2¼ ounces. Let's first write it in English. 2¼ and we need 1/2 of that, right? How do we translate it into language of math? We multiply by 1/2. 1/2 times 2¼ Let's convert 2¼ to an improper fraction. 1/2 times 9/4 gives us 9/8, which in turn is 1 and 1/8 of an ounce. That's how much Cody bought. That's how much Cody bought. Now, number 5 is very interesting. I like that problem. The longest side of a triangle is 2/3 or 2¾ times as long as the shortest side. The shortest side is 2/3 of an inch. Find the lengths. My friends, this problem cannot be solved without a nice picture. So let's make a triangle with different sides. Now, roughly something like that. It has a longest side and a shortest side. So if shortest side is 2/3 of an inch, like this, how much is the longer side? It's 2¾ times long. So we take 2/3 of an inch and multiply it by this quantity, right? It's not 2 times long, it's not 3 times long, it's 2¾ times long. So how do we multiply it? Fraction by fraction? 2/3 stays, but 2¾ has to be converted, and it becomes 11/4. Simplify before you multiply. 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2. Oopsie, it's just 2. Therefore, 22/6, or 3 and 4/6, which is the same as 3 2/3 of an inch. And that, my friends, is the length of a longer side. 2 2/3 of an inch. Now, at the bottom of page 61, we have a few examples of multiplying fraction times mixed number. And we've done a lot of this back in 5th grade. We've done a lot of multiplication. So let's try this. Now, here, my friends, in example A, we can use the distributive property. Step 1, consider the whole. Step 2, consider the fraction part. What is 1/5 of 10? And then what is 1/5 of 5/7? So 1/5 of 10 is 2, right? We multiply. And what is 1/5 of 5/7? It is just 1/7. Look how easy it is. No need to convert. And when you can find fractions of the wholes that easily, that would be your fastest method. But let's consider example C. Example C is not that straightforward at all. Let's look into it. We have 5/6. Let's keep that. That's a simple fraction. 11 7/8, which is 88 plus 7 is actually 95/8. Look at that. It's 95/8. Oh, what two ugly numbers. But we're going to work with that. The bottom, the denominator is easy. 6 times 8 is just 48. Now 5 times 95. My friends, mental math. 5 times 200 is, no, 5 times 100. Let's just think of it as 100 for a little bit, minus 5. So 5 times 100 is 500, and minus 5 is actually, minus 5 times 5 is 475. You can check my work. Now, 475 divided by 48. It is so close to 480 divided by 48, which would be 10, but we don't have 480, we have only 475. So we have 9 and some remaining of 48s. And to be exact, we have 9 and 43, 48. This example was very tricky. You had to do quite a bit of math. I hope you found this lesson useful.